Welcome to Forest Chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul van der May, and in today's episode, we're talking with Helen Iles about being a publisher. Helen started publishing around 2000 and currently publishes about 30 books a year. Welcome to Forest Chat, Helen.
Thank you for inviting me, Paul.
Pleasure to have you here, Helen. Helen, we know each other from our previous work history.
Yes.
And great to see you again and hear more about the publishing that you've been doing for longer than we've known each other.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
What is it that you do as a publisher?
Okay. I'm the managing editor of Helen Press, which is a small publishing house on the edge of the southern suburbs of Perth. We take on manuscripts from local authors, generally local authors, though we do have some international authors, and we give them the opportunity to have their work published and sold globally where they don't have the chance to be picked up by a traditional publisher. It's very much a joint effort between the author and Helen Press, and we have great working history between all our authors and the business. I'm very proud to be able to give this opportunity to other authors. As being an author myself, I know how hard it is to break into a traditional line of publishing. Just to categorise what publishing types are, we have traditional publishers. They take on the manuscript, generally give a contract to the author. They take on the marketing, the promotion, the development, and getting that book out into bookstores. And the author receives a royalty for any sales.
So the basis of that is you effectively, an individual would write the story or be contracted even to write a story,
Yes.
or potentially even a non-fiction book or whatever.
Yes.
To be contracted to do the writing and then effectively hand it over, and the rest of the process is done by that traditional publisher.
That's right. Sometimes traditional publishers, knowing the industry inside out, may require that the author changes things to meet what they think will sell best. Some authors don't want to change, if they even get an offer. Some authors don't want to change their story, so they will go down the line of self-publishing, which means they do all the work themselves. A lot of authors don't have the skills to do a full editing. They get too close to the story to see the flaws or what that story could possibly be at its best. So the hybrid publisher will generally edit if they don't require that the author gets an editor from elsewhere, which is very expensive. So the book would be edited, laid out into its book format, cover designed for it, and then it would be uploaded with a printer. Now, we use a global distributor who has a printing arm, which is absolutely phenomenal. That printing arm is worldwide. They have printing houses in UK, Germany, now in Arabia, Australia, United States. So it covers the world. If somebody wants to order a book in UK, we put the order through and just say UK, and it's printed in UK and posted in UK.
So it's printed as close to the individual or to the buyer as possible.
Yes, as possible. So it really cuts down on the postage. And we recommend this because an author who has lots of friends or family in other countries, if they get the books printed here and then try and post them around the world, the cost is phenomenal.
I was at the post office the other day and it was like over $15 to post something that weighed about half a kilo.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and most books are probably in that sort of range, unless they're those really lightweight, vaporise in your hand ones.
Yeah. So as a hybrid publisher, we can take the author, work with them hand in hand all through the process. Our job stops when the book is printed. They then pick up the promotions and marketing and their sales. What we do through our distributor is any sales they get online, Amazon, Topia, Waterstones, Barnes & Noble, our books go to all those stores if the bookstores wish to pick it up. So those royalties come into our account, and then every quarter we distribute those royalties straight to the author. That's their money, and comes in, goes out. There is one other sort of publisher, and that's called Vanity Press. And I do recommend that authors be very careful with Vanity Press, because they will take the manuscript as it is, faults and all, and they will print it, get it out there. And what will happen is the reader might get their story and say, this is unreadable. Might be a good story, but it's not really readable. Then that author loses a following. They will not buy the next book, no matter how good it is. So editing is a process that must take place, and it must be done by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right. And as a publisher, you have those skills?
I do have those skills. I've been writing since primary school. I did my first novel in primary school. I've got 4 adult novels out, 3 middle-aged reader novels. I've got probably 10, 12 children's picture books out there, poetry books, textbooks on writing poetry, textbooks on writing songs. And when I came out of school, when I was working, I took on every course I possibly could through university extension courses. Any prominent author who was doing a talk somewhere, I went, until I got to the stage where I came out of courses and I thought, well, what did I learn there? I didn't learn anything. One of the best ones I did was a course at uni called Practical Editing. And with that certificate under my belt, I then started teaching at TAFE, creative writing. I think I was doing 4 different TAFEs at one stage, going from one TAFE centre to another. And it was, you get to the stage where you just know. And I'm very good at picking up detail, missing words, wrong words in places. Very good at picking up where it's a story that's just narrated with no colour, and then I can try and work with the writer to make it immersive, to bring in the sights and sounds and smells and bring the scenes to life. And that's what I love doing.
That's what the colour is. It's those little bits, the little flourishes, maybe not flourishes from a wording perspective, but flourishes on the scene that they've painted in order to make it memorable.
I mean, some authors will have a great story, but they will write, it was cold. And what I get them to do is, how do you get the character to show it was cold? Joe stood there on the sidewalk and pulled his collar up around his neck and shoved his hands in his pocket, as the wind ruffled his hair. So you start to paint the scene. And you are, when you're writing well, you're painting a picture with words. And, don't scrim words.
Everything you need and nothing that you don't need.
Yeah, that's it. There was one book we did. The author had various passions that actually didn't fit into the story. And one was he did a whole chapter on religions, all the different religions and how they compared. And if he was in power, what religion would they make the people be? And at the end of the chapter, they decided that, no, well, that's being dictatorial and we don't want to be that. So that chapter didn't go anywhere. And I said, well, why is that chapter in there where it actually doesn't factor into what happens in the rest of the story? And I did convince him to take that chapter out.
So that's keeping it on track.
Keeping it on track, yeah. Another thing I find with the writing is they know the story, and I think they tend to forget that with the word processor, you can cut and paste pieces to put it in a logical sequence. So, when I'm reading something, I think, okay, well, I've got that. That sort of jumped a bit. And then a little bit further down, I get the piece that should have been up in where I thought it jumped. So we can actually then resequence the story for a better flow.
So that's a part of what you do. And you got to the point of being able to do that through some formal learning, obviously.
Yes.
But also sounds like a bit of a passion for doing the writing yourself.
That's right, yeah. And putting it out for feedback. And even when I am finished doing an edit, I will then pass it off to someone else to read and say, tell me what you think. When that reader comes back and says to me, I ended up doing 50 pages and I wasn't proofreading. I didn't pick anything up. I was into the story and I thought, that's what I want to hear. Yeah, that story's worth.
Yeah,
Or it
yeah.
comes back, oh, this is a 2 tissue box job. It's got the emotion in it. One of my biggest concerns at the moment is AI, and so many books are being written by AI, and it is just so flat. I can pick an AI pretty much straight away.
AI is average. It's they guess the most likely thing that comes next. That's the basis of how AI works.
Yes.
And that can only ever produce average. It doesn't know anything different.
It doesn't know emotion. It cannot show emotion. It might say emotion, but the whole thing of immersive writing and engaging the reader is to show how the character reacts, not that they were sad. What did their eyes do? What did their face do? What did their body do? And the reader then reading what the character is feeling and how they're showing it, they feel it too. And that's what you want for a story.
And that's what draws people in, and you get to the page turning side of things.
Yeah.
You just can't put them down.
That's right. And I find that if I'm editing something and I'm starting to yawn, including my own work, I know that needs fixing.
Yeah, the book needs fixing. You don't need to go and have another nap.
No. Yeah.
So what else do you bring to the table in the things that you're able to do, Helen, that contribute to being a publisher?
Right. I think encouraging the author, book launches. I love to go to book launches and see the elation on the author's face when the sales start happening. They're out there, their book is out there. I just as much enjoy them having that first book in their hands as they are. I also guide them through the process of what being published is all about, guide them through the marketing process. It's not something I do personally, but I can show them the best way to do it, and the best way to do it economically, because the whole thing with being a self-published author is you're going to lay out a bit of money in a hybrid publication. You want to get that back. So I want to show them how to get that back, how to put themselves to the full. As a writer, we're an introvert, and it's very hard to step over the fence to be an extrovert and sell that product. And a book will not sell itself. If you're lucky, the book might gain success by word of mouth. One person reads it, tells somebody else, they'll tell somebody else, those two people will tell somebody else, and that's how your sales tend to grow. But these days, you need to be able to get the book visually out to the readership. So you'll be using things like Instagram, Facebook. Facebook won't get your sales, but it might get the person who's seen the image of the book, maybe read the jacket blurb on the back of what the book's about, try and make that interesting enough that they go, oh, I really have to read this, that it might produce sales. But certainly the visual side of the book needs to be out there, and the author needs to be out there face-to-face with the readership, confidently talking about their book and their story.
And probably all aspects of their book and their story.
That's right.
Because you need to have that authenticity. That really does half the job of the selling, doesn't it?
That's right. Particularly family histories. I mean, when somebody writes a family history, it's not the history, just the history of the family. It's the history of the area that they grew up in. When they're writing about their parents and, say, living in Perth as a child. One instance, we did Arthur Leggett's book, Don't Cry for Me. And when Arthur was 16 in Perth, he got a job in Bones. And his job was to take the big horse collars for the Clydesdale horses, put them on a trolley, wheel them from Bones across Wellington Street to the railway station, and pick these heavy collars up and put on the counter for them to be shipped off up to one of the country towns. And Arthur was only a short chap, and he found this quite difficult. But what he wrote about Bones and the fact that there was a tannery in the upstairs floors up just under the roof, and That's where these collars were made. That was just fascinating news to me because I never knew there was a tannery and a leatherworks up in Bones.
No, there was a canteen. You could go and buy lunch, Helen.
That's right. Well, before the canteen, Paul, there was a tannery.
I'm not sure any of that food I ate in the canteen was any good for me then.
Well, particularly when he talks about the resins and that was spat onto the wool and dripping down the brickwork, you know. This area. Yeah. It all brings colour and life to the history, not of just the person, but of the place that they grew up in.
Absolutely. And where our generation grew up, and particularly our parents' generation, it's so vastly different to what our children and the next generation and the generation after them will experience.
That's right.
There's probably a bundle of kids and even adults out there who have no concept that you can live in a house that does not have the power connected.
That's right.
And that was normal.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm currently working on my mum's history. She grew up in Angelo Street in South Perth. And I think Nana had the first or second house built on Angelo Street. And in Mum's book, she can say whose house was built next, when they moved in, when the cinema was there, when the general store was there, who had it and for how long. The history of South Perth is in Mum's book, and it's just going to be wonderful.
Something to look forward to.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything, Helen, that about publishing that we maybe should cover before we delve on to the next parts?
I think it's important. I mean, one of the things that you'd probably want to go hybrid, if you can, is that the hybrid company, we supply the international standard book number from our publishing house to any book that we put up for global distribution. Getting an ISBN can be expensive if somebody's just doing one book or a couple of books, and the registration of all those things is part of the business side of being a writer. So if you don't know about ISBN applications and legal deposits and that sort of thing, we have to make sure that every book we publish, one copy, printed copy, goes to the State Library, and electronic copy goes to the National Library in Canberra, and that registers the book as being published as a history of publishing in Australia. The ISBN is very important for that as well, because bookstores will order on the ISBN. So any book that goes for sale must have an ISBN attached to it. And I know a lot of people being, I've only got one book, so I will get a free ISBN from the platform that I'm lodging it with. But then they lose the ownership of that book because the ISBN belongs to the publisher, which would be the online sales platform. So if you use a free ISBN from Amazon, Amazon then becomes your publisher and has control. You can't then go and publish it with that ISBN anywhere else.
All right. So that's a bit of how they lock you in.
Yes, yes. Always get your own ISBN. Always.
Okay. So that's an interesting thing to know.
I think the other thing with publishing too, as opposed to going with a traditional publisher where you do lose a bit of control of the book, when you self-publish, whether you do it through a hybrid, whether you do it yourself, when you're doing it through hybrid or self-publishing, it's called print on demand. So you only need to print the number of books that you really need at the time. If you go to a local printer and want your book printed not online, but in boxes that you can then take to do your face-to-face sales, you have to buy hundreds to get the price down. If you're going through, our business is Ingram Sparks and their printing arm, you only need to buy what you need. You get it at cost price plus freight, and you don't need to buy hundreds. You don't need to leave your car parked in the street because you've got cartons of books in your garage to keep them out of the weather. You could buy one book. You can buy 10 books. if you buy, say, 20 books for a book launch and then you start to run down and you get down to 5, you just put another order in and you'll have them within about 3 weeks. So you don't have to commit a lot of expense in the early stages. Small print runs better so that if you're not good at selling, you're not going to have cartons and cartons of books for years and years and years. And that does tend to happen to some people.
The having books packed up in boxes, and it's not books, it's the same book.
Yes.
That's not a very cost-effective way of going about it.
No, you will not get your money back.
So you talked earlier about the traditional publishers looking at like at least 5,000 sales, but they really want hundreds of thousands of sales
Yes.
to get that through. So just to cover the cost of doing the work of making the book, you need to be up in that 5,000 sort of range
That's right.
if you're going to buy copies.
Yes. And the traditional publishing house has a distribution channel. So in favour going with a traditional publisher, if you can, is that they have their fingers in the pie with bookstores. So they do deliver to bookstores. If you self-publish, you're the one who's going to have to go around to those bookstores and ask if they will stock your book. And a lot of them won't. So you're then sort of left with the online bookstores and no guarantee of sales.
So what are the options besides online is an option.
Yes.
That's okay. But you get bookstores. You've got the likes of like Big W and whatever have a book section.
Yes.
And where else might?
You wouldn't get them into Woolworths. They will go through traditional publishers. Your options are gift stores. Some of the books that we've done might be written around a country town. So our recommendation is to see various gift stores within that country town. The libraries, of course, you do need to approach libraries to stock your book. And you do get royalties on books that are being borrowed at the libraries. We just recently did a book called Reflections of Rockingham, which is short stories and poetry about Rockingham. And the gift stores around Rockingham are picking those books up and offering them for sale, which is good. They make a little bit of profit, and so does the author.
Excellent.
It's an anthology.
Yeah, so it's going to the places where you're talking about because there'll be interest about that place. I know with this podcast, some people have been listening to this podcast because it's local people.
Yes, yeah.
That have been on the interviews, and most other podcasts are like people from wherever.
Yeah.
So that's one of the good things about Forest.chat. It is a West Australian focus,
Yes.
but there's a good number from the southwest and from the metro area, so there's a good mix of people.
It's like any good book. You have to get it out there for it to be available for them to read or listen to.
That's right. That's the chicken and the egg thing, isn't it?
If you don't do it, you won't be heard, you won't be seen, you won't be read.
That's it. And that's why Forest.chat grows by word of mouth.
Yes. And so does books. Book sales grow by word of mouth.
Yep. So it's very important when you find something that you like that you tell people about it.
That's right.
Makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
I see that even in the listener numbers. Sometimes I can't explain them, but mostly if you know that it's been shared around a bit, then the listener numbers go up. It's pretty clear where that's happened.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And can gauge the popularity of the genre or the category or the topic.
So, Helen, what does it mean to you, your family, or the community that you're able to be a publisher?
I think we have provided to the community opportunities that they normally get by going to a traditional publisher, because the acceptance rate of new authors is very low with traditional. So we've sort of had that opportunity for them to get their work out there, to get a following. And hopefully our biggest aim would be if we publish their book and it's seen, it might get picked up by a traditional publisher. I tend to think about 50 Shades of Grey. That was up as a fanzine to start with. Someone saw it and a publishing house saw it and wanted to publish. another book that just had the magical opportunity for it. The author wrote it as a thing called NaNoWriMo. I don't know if you know about NaNoWriMo.
I heard about NaNoWriMo. Can you explain what that is?
It doesn't exist anymore, but it used to be National Novel Writers Month of November. NaNoWriMo. But that's what it was. You had to write 50,000 words of your novel in the month of November. So it really inspired people to apply themselves to their project. Now, this author wrote the book in NaNoWriMo, naturally cooled it off and did the edit and everything, self-published it up on Amazon. I think it was Amazon. And then it was picked up for a movie. And that novel was Water for Elephants.
Ah.
So self-doing gave that author great success. Fabulous story.
Yeah, gave them the leg up to be seen.
Yes. You have to have it out there for it to be seen to take it further.
So there are writing competitions and that sort of thing around?
Yes, there are. Fewer now, with the financial way things are going. I mean, I'm the chair of the Society of Women Writers, and we're running a national competition at the moment for poetry. And I don't think the money's out there for people to be going into competitions now. We've just run a book competition in fiction and children's books, I think it was, last year. Again, not a lot of entries coming in. And I know a lot of the writing organisations are finding the same thing.
All
So
right.
there's a lot of online competitions and activities where you can submit your work by email or whatever and get accolades there. But again, there's not a lot of big prize money, which makes it very hard. I think the important thing is that authors shouldn't need to be disillusioned. There's opportunities there. So as far as Linella Press goes, we provide the opportunity. We work with them to get that polished product. And I think once we help them polish the product, they do the next book better first time round. Family-wise, I think I stay out of their hair a lot because I'm always on the computer, but it has inspired my great-grandchildren to write. So with my little one, she's just turned 8, we have 2 books out that we've written together, 2 illustrated children's stories, which we have also together written a song for. So we have the children's book, we have the song, and we have now done a YouTube that has the song in it, and we put it up on YouTube. And she is now working on writing the next book. I think it's called something Evie Loves Nanny. And another one we're doing for next Christmas is Evie Loves Christmas. So, and having a moral to the story or a purpose to the story for kids is very. So, we sit there. Tim and I are also working on a Tim the Warrior book. So he's having adventures and we're doing the illustrations for that. And he's already done the song. So it brings us together, really brings us together.
You can see that, and there's a bit of a leaning. You have that leaning towards writing.
Yes.
And they're also learning how to lean into writing as well, aren't they?
I had to laugh at the beginning of preschool for Evie. The teachers asked them to write down what they wanted to be. And they put the little pieces of writing that they did up on the window. And Evie's was, when I grow up, I want to be a writer of good books. And I thought, I'll give her a lollipop for that one. To be a writer of books.
Yeah, not just any books, good books.
Good books, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, so you see that enthusiasm coming through.
Yes. I think for the community too, going back to family histories, for families to leave the history of their family and their place, who's going to write it if they don't? Particularly when they've got hands-on. We did a family history. Well, I don't think it was made as a public release. It was a family release, but it had all the branches of the family, and each member of the family was able to write a chapter or a couple of pages towards what it was like growing up in the family. I don't think you can beat that. we put one out just before Christmas called Letters from the Front, which was two brothers sending letters. They were posted in France during World War One,
Mm-hmm.
and they were sending postcards and letters back to the family members. And the whole book is all these letters that the boys sent back
Wow.
to various members of the family. Wonderful legacy for the family.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I interviewed Richard Williams about the Military Digital Library. So the Military Digital Library digitising a lot of the letters that were sent from the fronts
Yes.
in both wars or even after into the families, and they've ended up in the family stash of letters and
Yes.
things that my mum has a box that's, letters and all that sort of thing. So into those boxes, but they were the military records,
Yes.
and they're actually digitising those. So they're scanning them in,
Yep.
effectively.
Yep.
All sorts of
And
different
keeping
records.
that record forever, and that's and again, if people don't put them out there in books for other people to enjoy, people don't know they exist, and therefore it's lost history.
Yes. And the challenge with that is people don't understand what it was like, and that while it was different, it's still possible to live in a different way. So the life you face now is not the only way people can live.
That's right. That's right. And I think with any book that you put out there, you try and teach the reader something. I write disaster notes, coming from my history of our work, and in particular, Fire in the Heartland is about the wildfires in the high country of Victoria prior to this fire. And it's survival. It's how to cope, how to survive. And, whether you do a recipe book of how to cook a meal or how to cope with criminal situations, fiction, if it's logical, and that's something I bring to our work, is the logic that goes behind the story. You can't just fabricate something, even as fiction, and not have it be credible. So one of my traits is always pulling the logic in. Some of my authors write about horses. A horse is somehow in the sea. And I'll go, no, that's not what that's called, or that's not how you put on a saddle, because I have a history with horses of being a horse person all my life. And they're amazed that, I can pick this thing and go, no, hang on. So somebody wrote a book and had, in the time period of the book, they were reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I'm going, hang on a minute, that wasn't even written then. I had to go back and say, can they read another book other than this? Yeah, you just got to pick up the credible so that the reader doesn't go, no, that can't happen. And then they lose passion in the story because they're waiting for the next flaw. We don't want to have flaws.
Right. Yeah, you want them to glide along on the line of the story and not to fall into all these little traps and side.
Yeah, nothing should jar.
tracks.
Nothing should jar. It just should be a smooth flow reading. And that's the thing with readers these days. We also look at wordiness. Particularly some of the older authors have a particular writing style. But the readership these days doesn't have the time to be sitting reading words that aren't required. They want a quick read, and they want it in a sharp picture that they can retain and move on. So we're always sort of looking at, editing out unnecessary words or trimming the fat, as we call it, just to make that sharper read and make it easier for the reader.
So from a what does it mean perspective, we've talked around the community and the authors and your family. What does it mean for you?
I love to see an author make it. Just the light in their eyes when they get their book in their hand and somebody comes up to buy it. I feel that elation. I feel their success. I think we all need to. I don't read a lot, actually. It's quite funny. They say to be a good writer, you need to be an avid reader, and that's something I'm not. But then I suppose I am, because I'm reading all these new stories, all these new family histories coming through that nobody else has read yet. So I love to take something and help to shape it to make it successful for someone. I'm also pretty much a workaholic, that if I wasn't doing this, I'd be tearing my hair out. If I wasn't sitting at a computer at least 10 hours a day, I think I'd be a mental wreck. So, and I can't produce that much myself, so I need to be working with somebody else. But just to know that the family histories are getting out there, Perth's history is being left for others to enjoy, to help authors improve their skill through the editing process, and we do work very closely with them. Yeah, just to hear that they love the cover, and that takes quite a bit of research to make sure you've got the right cover. Yeah, for me, it's seeing other authors having opportunities that they wouldn't get necessarily the traditional publishing the way it is. And there are a lot of traditional publishing houses closing down now worldwide because authors can now do it themselves.
The traditional publishers are feeling the pressure because of self-publishing and hybrid publishing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible now that everyone can have a look at. My word of advice to everyone is that if you do it on your own, to make sure you put out the most published piece of work you possibly can, because there is a lot of rubbish out there on the internet because people want to see their name in print, and sometimes it's not going to do them justice. Whereas they take a bit more time, get a good team together to help them through the process, then they will get a following and they can make a career of it. I don't think they could ever live off royalties unless it gets picked up as a movie. And I don't think it matters how prolific you are as a writer. They call us starving artists for a reason. But a lot of writers, it's not just getting published. It's a compulsion. You have to write. And it doesn't matter what you're writing. You pick up the pen every day and something has to come out on the page, even if you're not going to use it anywhere. You just have to write.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
it's in the heart and in the head, and it's got to get out.
It's got to get out. Yeah, it's a part of the process of you. You know, you've got the stories are there and they have to be told.
Yes.
So even if no one actually gets them
Yes.
or gets to read them, they're on the way. They've left your hand and, you know, they can go on to the next thing.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned something I wanted to come back to just briefly. It was a fanzine?
Fanzine. From what I've heard of fanzine, the writers can take like an episode, for example, Twilight, the book Twilight, the movie Twilight. The author can take those characters and put them into their own episode and put it up on the internet in a fanzine group, and everyone gets to read those stories about the characters that they already know. I think that's what fanzine is all about.
Right. Okay. So is there a place to go, like a site or a...
I've never been there myself, but I would say if you just put fanzine into your search bar, it'll take you to the various ones because I think they're in genres as well.
Right.
But they have quite a following.
All right. That's interesting. I'd never heard of that before, and hey, you'll learn something.
That's right. And the thing with fanzine is they don't have to create their own characters. They're already created.
Yeah, you just write them into your story.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I was thinking it could be something like a magazine platform or something like that.
It's
So
an online writing group, quite large.
So, Helen, if someone wanted to become a publisher,
yes,
how would they go about it?
Okay. You would need to register as a business. You know, if you're making money, you've got to go down the business line, set up your books, you know, your accounts, etc. Keep records. I think the hardest thing would be to get your clientele. We started off very slow. And I think once we got Arthur's book out and people saw that he got it done, then Arthur actually recommended us to other people. You could advertise in writers' newsletters and things like that you are available for that. A website. Put it up as a website. Make sure you have got the right keywords for the search to pick you up as a publisher. Be prepared, I think, to do at least a few where it's not economical for you. Do some freebies so that people can see what you are capable of and the quality of your work. Once that gets out there, then word of mouth should start to bring you in clientele. But do have an ABN. Do get yourself some international standard book numbers from back corpus so you've got something to apply to the books. Have a look on YouTube or on the internet. Going down the lines, there's a number of different platforms that you can use to upload books to for sale. We use Ingram Sparks for our printed books. We use Amazon for our ebooks. But there's also Draft to Digital. There's Lulu. There's BookBub. There's a whole range of them. So you need that platform so that you don't have to run to a local printer and get 1,000 books printed for your client to put in their garage and park their car in the street. Keep good folder structures. You taught me that through work.
Thank you. Something got through.
Yes, it did. Be prepared to listen. Be prepared to work with your client. It is their book. It is their story. Be very careful that you don't try and take it over and make it your story. So one of the biggest things that when you're doing an edit is you do not lose your author's voice or the character's voice. So yeah, get a good computer, get good software. And as I was saying with Ingram Sparks and Amazon, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is the printing arm for Amazon. They have some fabulous tutorials out there of how to design books. They have templates, they have cover templates. Ingram Sparks has the same of how to go down the line of being a self-publisher or what we call the independent author publisher. And I would highly recommend looking at all those videos. Do some of your own books up first to get a feel for it and set up a process list. You taught me that too. Set up a process list so it's just automatically, I do this now, I do that now, now I do that. You don't miss any steps. And the process
I have one of them for the podcast too, Helen.
Yes. It's called a worksheet. Set up the worksheets. And I also recommend if you tell your client you will have the book done by a certain time, then don't ever go beyond that deadline. So, and don't overcommit. As I was saying to you earlier, Paul, we put out 7 books in time for Christmas, and we do a book in about 3 months. So where I normally work 11 hours a day on the computer, I was going candle to candle, end to end. And the joy, as much as I loved the books we were doing and I wanted them out in time for Christmas, it started to become a chore. And that's something with the publishing that I do is it's not a job, it's a passion. It is who I am. And as soon as it becomes a job, I think I would probably give it away. But then maybe I wouldn't, because I just love to see the joy on the authors' faces when they first release their books. Yeah.
So that's about understanding your capabilities, what you've got to deal with, and what the timeframe expectations are, and understanding that you don't set it short, you set it achievable.
That's right. Yeah.
Or even with a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, and don't give them a time that you'll have it done by until you see the volume of work that's involved. If we had a book, I'm doing one at the moment, it's probably 900 pages, and I've got to do the edit on that as well as the layout. That's going to probably take me more time than a 300-page anthology. So, I would double the time for this author as to when this book is going to be ready for it. Anything that we do that is graphically challenging, like it's a photo book or it's got a lot of images in it, captioning, that's also going to take more time. We do heirloom books as well, so we always add extra time for an heirloom, hardcover, that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, know your limitations, know your timeframes, have a look at the project before you start and give them time frame, and don't do too many at once. Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds like fantastic advice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen, for being on Forest.chat. I'm sure all of our Forest.chat listeners wish you all the best with your future endeavours.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul.
You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we've been talking with Helen Iles about being a publisher. Remember, there are 4 ways to get involved with Forest.chat. Share the domain Forest.chat with your friends and family and people you meet. When you sign up for the emails, you get advance notice of the episodes. Listen to the episodes at forest.chat/episodes. If you do something interesting, or you know somebody might be interested in what you do, book an interview at forest.chat/interview. If you want to support a small business, book an advert at forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next guest. Until then, enjoy making it happen.